We need to pull together to make things happen. And one of the biggest challenges, not only for me, but people have come across, is commitment.
Child of legends, speak through me.
The young will look up as the old ones look on, taking pride in your world that your efforts have won.
Children of the world, children of the Lord, children of the South, children of vision.
We had a different way of raising our children and of community than what the mainstream society had. And so a judgment was placed there, and kids were scooped. We had lost our mother and were living with our cookum in Fishing Lake. And we were apprehended from there. But when you go back, because we couldn't understand why had we been apprehended. And when we got our files, there wasn't any real protection concern. We were placed in, Sharon, what do you call it? The
foster home from hell.
Yes, in a very, very abusive foster home, and abusive in every sense of the word. Initially, my sister that's not here, her and I were the ones that were initially in the home, and Sharon and Herb were in another home directly beside us, like right next door to us. And so Sharon would be worried about us and come over to try and say, you know, can I see my sister and my sisters? And she wasn't allowed to see us. We weren't allowed to see her. A few years later, the family that they were in were moving, and they weren't being allowed to move with them. So they got moved in with the abusive home.
And that was a great day for us.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because she's right. We used to see, Herb and I used to see, you probably don't remember, but we used to see Edith and Marlene in the windows sometimes, and they'd see us and they'd wave to us, but that pretty well was our only contact with them, being next door. Just every once in a while we'd wave at them. So we found out that our foster family was moving, who were a great family, by the way. We had, were taken care of very well, but we were sad to see them go, but more happy that we were going to finally be, reunited. And I don't think it lasted very long there. I think within a week we were subjected to the same kind of stuff these girls, had they been able to tell us, might have stopped, could have been stopped right at the beginning.
I don't recall if we were asked by the social workers what it was like there before Sharon and Herb came, but I know Edith was in school and I was still too young to go to school, and they would hide me when she was coming home from school and then chase her around the house and say that they were the social worker, and that if we didn't behave, we were going to get taken away to somewhere worse. So they kind of programmed us and had us in such fear that we didn't dare say anything when the social worker came. The foster parents had a lot of say then of whether we were able to visit with anybody, because both sides of our relatives, the one side got to visit us, but only minimally, and the ones from our Fishing Lake settlement, Métis settlement, they tried for a while. They felt like, well, the government won't allow us to see the kids, and they just pulled back and didn't continue to try. They gave up. The few times that we went out with our non-Aboriginal relatives and went on an outing with them, they noticed that we would be very fearful of some, like if we lost a shoelace, let's say. I know there was one incident where one of us lost our shoelace, and they said they found it very strange how we reacted in such fear.
But when you're talking about 365 days times 3 or 4 years, you're talking about well over 1,000 incidences that, only we can just say a few. A lot of them are repetitive. They could be very creative in a lot of things that they did. And when we look back on it and we say, well, nobody's going to believe us. Absolutely nobody. I mean, nobody lives like this. They're all going to say that we're liars, and if we tell somebody, they're going to come back to this family, to the parents, and say, guess what these kids told us? And before you know, I mean, in the end, we thought we'd literally be killed. I'm serious, because of such a tattling on them and how they treated us, that was like the ultimate betrayal for them, and that we would get like the ultimate punishment for that. So, you know, fear, you're right, you know, it just blossomed into this uncontrollable thing.
I know now the workers are to take kids out individually and talk to them. But in the situation we were in, that would have had to have happened ongoing for there to be any sense of feeling like it was safe to say anything.
They'd give us 2 squares of toilet paper to go to the washroom with, and brush our teeth with Brill cream, and we used to eat raw potatoes and drink vinegar to stay alive. So that's all that was available to us.
Because we'd get locked in the house, they'd go away for the weekend, and we'd be locked in the basement for the whole weekend without any food. Well, we weren't supposed to go to the washroom at nighttime even. But the washroom wasn't open, it wasn't even a closed-in area. You had your toilet and your sink there, and it was in the same room as one of the abusers.
We soon found out that we could use the sewer, you know, have the sewer in the laundry room or whatever. So, you know, so you get to be pretty creative anyways to try and, you know, keep some dignity about you.
When the social worker came, then they came out of the closet with these toys, but normally we had none, so we'd make paper toilet little dollies. That's what we'd play with in bed.
I don't remember any toys. Honestly, I remember having the toys when the social worker came, and then being devastated when you lost the toys afterwards.
There were no surprise visits. So that was the only time we were in the living room in that home. That was the only time we had these specific clothes, nice dresses that we got to wear when the social worker came.
Yeah. I remember too in sitting at the different tables or on the floor in the kitchen, not sitting at the table with the rest of the family, eating different food than them. I remember being held over a red hot burner because I'd asked for an aspirin because I was feeling sick one day, and so they says, well, we'll give you an aspirin, you little Indian, and all this type of stuff. That I was going to be a thief because I had long arms, and that lived on social services all my life because I was an Indian, and that's all that Indians ever do.
Yeah.
For us, it was a fear daily, because we knew that something that we said or did or didn't say or didn't do, or a wrong look, or maybe you didn't even look, who knows what it was that would cause them to give justification. Yes.
Now you can kneel on the kerneled corn with books in your arms and your arms straight out, and literally for like an hour, and if you drop your arms because those books are heavy, they would hit you.
I remember being thankful to go to school because I used to go in the lockers and steal the other kids' lunch, and I'd put, you know, be in class, put your hand up so you can go to the washroom, and when you're out in the hallway and there's no one in there, you steal some kid's lunch, you run to the bathroom, you just wolf it down, you have some food finally. And you know, for me, it wasn't just that home, I was in a multitude of homes. My life was a living hell as a child, and learned not to trust people, not to love people, not to respect authority, because none of them saved you. I have a real hard time with forgiving. I think that some of that stuff is pretty much unforgivable.